a young orphan named Asushi, was kicked out of his orphanage under the pretext that there wasn't enough food, and they told him he was useless and that no other place would take him. So he spent weeks on the streets moving between cities hopelessly and without food, terrified because a tiger was chasing him. At sunset, near one of Tokyo's rivers, Atsushi was almost unconscious because he hadn't eaten for days. Since he was expelled from the orphanage he used to live in, and because he didn't have the courage to steal money from anyone, he ended up in serious trouble, yet he decided not to give up and get up to steal since there was no other way. At that moment, he remembered when the people at the orphanage told him he was useless, and that no orphanage would welcome someone like him, and that the world would be better if he died. So Atsushi screamed at the voice in his head to shut up, gathered his will, and decided he couldn't die there, then waited for someone to pass by so he could rob them. The first person passed on a motorcycle, so he said he was too fast, I can't catch him. Then a unit of the military police passed by, so he said they surely don't have money while on duty. Suddenly, he felt someone behind him, turned around, and saw a man drowning in the river, drifting with the current, strangely not resisting. So Atsushi tried to force himself to ignore it, but couldn't and jumped into the river quickly to save him. After pulling him out and trying to catch his breath, he saw that man, whose name was Dazai, get up normally as if he hadn't been about to die, and said in shock, "I'm alive!" Then got angry at Atsushi, who was stunned that he was upset instead of thanking him for saving his life. Dazai stood up and asked him, "Were you the one who interfered with my suicide attempt?" So Atsushi was shocked that he had done it intentionally, and Dazai, angrily, said, "I was trying to kill myself and you interrupted." Atsushi couldn't comprehend that he was scolding him for saving his life. Dazai continued, "My goal is to achieve a successful suicide without being a burden to anyone, but I already bothered you, so I'm at fault this time and must apologize." Suddenly, Dazai heard Atsushi's stomach growl and realized he was hungry, telling him, "I'm hungry too. But unfortunately my wallet fell in the river." Then a voice shouted from the other side of the river, scolding Dazai for wasting time. Dazai replied, "Well done, Kunikita," making him angrier as he yelled, "You're the reason for all the piled up work. You suicide addict, how long will you keep ruining my schedule?" But Dazai ignored him and said to Atsushi, "Let's go eat at my coworker's expense." At night they went to a restaurant. Kunikita was furious with Dazai and said, "Who gets impressed by a river and decides to commit suicide in it during work hours? You ruined our entire schedule." Dazai calmly replied, "You love your schedules too much," while Atsushi sat in front of them eating so fast that he finished countless dishes. After finishing, he sincerely thanked Kunikita for saving him, saying, "After I left the orphanage and came to Yokohama, I found neither food nor a place to sleep. I thought I would die of hunger today." Then Atsushi said, "I heard you talking about armed forces or something. What exactly do you work as?" Dazai replied, "We're secret detectives." Kunikita clarified he didn't mean detectives who handle wild animals or family cases, and said, "You must have heard of the Armed Detective Agency, an organization full of people with supernatural powers." Atsushi was shocked and thought to himself, "Yes, I heard rumors about the Armed Detective Agency. It said they handle cases the police or normal military can't deal with." But he looked at Dazai and Kunikita with confusion, wondering, are they really part of it? They look like idiots. Then asked them, "What's the job you're working on today?" Kunikita replied, "We're searching for a certain tiger requested by the military. It's been wandering around eating people. But we're not sure it killed anyone. We only found out it devoured a large amount of crops and stole some food from warehouses." Suddenly Atsushi fell to the ground in fear and told them, "I'm leaving." Kunikita grabbed him, sensing he knew something about the tiger. Atsushi screamed, "No one can face it. It's been chasing me for so long and was about to kill me. If it's nearby I must run away." Kunikita threw him hard to the ground and said, "Either I cut off your arm in return for the food you ate or you tell us what you know." Dazai calmed him down and made him move away from Atsushi, approached him rationally, and asked gently, "What's the story of the tiger with you?" Atsushi replied, "My orphanage was destroyed because of that tiger. It ruined our fields and killed the animals, but it really didn't kill people, and because our orphanage budget was small I was expelled to reduce the number of people needing food." Kunikita asked, "What do you mean by it almost killed you?" Atsushi replied hopelessly, "That tiger appears wherever I go. 4 days ago while wandering in Tsurumi I saw it in a mirror reflection." Suddenly, Dazai asked him, "Are you free?" Atsushi felt really bad, and indeed what he thought was true. Dazai wanted to use him as bait to catch the tiger. Dazai wrote a note, gave it to Kunikita, and asked him to deliver it to the agency's president. Kunikita was surprised that he planned to go catch the tiger alone with Atsushi. Dazai told him don't worry and Kunikita trusted him, but Atsushi, still screaming and terrified to go with him, was tempted when Dazai mentioned there was a huge cash reward if he came along, so Atsushi agreed since he was completely broke. At midnight, Atsushi sat with Dazai in a very dark warehouse. Dazai read his suicide art book and seemed to enjoy it while waiting for the tiger to appear. Atsushi nervously asked, "Is the tiger really going to show up here?" Dazai confidently answered yes. Atsushi panicked even more, but Dazai reassured him that even if it did appear it was no match for him, saying, "I may not look like it, but I'm a very influential member of the Armed Detective Agency." Suddenly the wind grew stronger, blowing the clouds away from the moon. Dazai said, "It's time." Atsushi heard something fall and panicked. Dazai told him calmly that's just the wind, but he still couldn't relax. Dazai closed his book and said, "Tigers don't appear in places like this." Atsushi angrily asked, "How do you know?" Dazai replied, "From the start something was off. No orphanage would expel just 1 or 2 kids, because there's no money or food since it wouldn't make a difference. It would make more sense to send half the orphans to another place." Then Dazai knelt before him and said, you came to this city 2 weeks ago, and since then the tiger appeared. You were in Surumi 4 days ago, and the tiger appeared too. Remember, Kunikita told you the armed detective agency is full of people with supernatural abilities, though they're very few in the world, and not everyone with powers can control them. Most lose control, and Atsushi transformed into a huge blue tiger. Dazai told him, I think the orphanage knew you were the real tiger but refused to tell you, leaving you alone unaware that you have the power to turn into a tiger under the moonlight. The tiger leaped toward Dazai, trying to kill him. Dazai dodged skillfully with his hands in his pockets until he reached a dead end, then decided to pull his hands out and use his special ability, which is nullifying any ability by touch. The tiger lunged at him, and once Dazai touched him, Atsushi returned to normal but unconscious. At that moment, Kunikita arrived, and Dazai told him, I caught the tiger. Kunikita was shocked it was Atsushi, and pulled out the paper Dazai had written, angrily asking, what's this? Dazai read it mockingly, a tiger will appear in the warehouse in Area 50, secure the place so it doesn't escape, and said it's a brief note. Kunikita yelled missing details, and you made the director send the whole squad here outside working hours, so now you'll have to treat them to something. Dazai looked at Atsushi and remembered when he said they always told me I was useless in the orphanage. Now I don't even know where to sleep or go, so Dazai decided to take him in. The whole squad got mad at him but he ignored them, called Atsushi to wake him up, and asked, do you remember anything that happened when you transformed? Atsushi was confused and asked, what do you mean? Dazai pointed at his hand, and when Atsushi looked he was shocked his hand was that of a tiger. Dazai shouted his name to calm him and said, you'll be one of us. The next day, Atsushi dreamed of Dazai telling him, look at your right hand, then woke up startled and looked to find it had returned to normal again. Then was surprised to see he was sleeping in a bed with a ceiling above him, saying to himself, it'd been a long time since the last time I was in a house. Suddenly he heard a phone ringing, so he ran to answer. He found it was Dazai, asking him how the new house. Atsushi thanked him a lot. Then, Dazai told him the clothes you have are a gift from everyone in the agency. Atsushi thanked him again, and suddenly Dazai changed his tone and said, they're an emergency and the matter can't wait past. I'll give you the location. Come as fast as you can. Intrigued Lukli got dressed and went out while Dazai was still on the phone, telling him lock the door well and look behind you. Atsushi turned and was shocked to see that the emergency was Dazai stuck inside a metal barrel. He nervously asked, did the enemy put you in that barrel? The Dazai replied, no, I entered it myself, Urju. I heard about a new suicide method using an oil barrel, so I decided to try it, but I found myself suffering without dying and couldn't get out. Atsushi pushed the barrel over, making Dazai fall out, then asked him, why didn't you call anyone else from the agency? Dazai replied, of course I called and told them I was about to die, but they all congratulated me. Atsushi felt not surprised by that, then asked Dazai, are all members in the armed detective agency gifted? Dazai replied, yes, but they're an armed force that doesn't get along with the police, who can't match them. Atsushi felt hopeless and said, then I have no chance to join them. It's true that I can turn into a tiger, but I can't control it or transform by will at all, so I don't think I'll be useful to you. He apologized to Dazai and refused the offer he gave him yesterday to join the agency. Dazai asked, so what's the plan? Atsushi replied, I guess I'll look for a job, though it won't be easy. Dazai offered to help him find one. Atsushi got excited and went with him. On the way, Dazai told him, we're going now to meet the person who'll hire you, and I'm sure he'll be impressed. Atsushi asked about the job nature. Dazai distracted him, saying, don't ruin the fun. There might be a test, but leave it to me and everything will be fine, but only one the agency trusts and people like. Suddenly, Kunikita appeared very angry and said, who that the agency trusts? You're the only one bringing us all complaint. Calls Dazai replied, when did I ever cause a problem? Kunikita pulled his notebook saying, first complaint, someone told us your employee hanged himself in a fishing net. Second complaint, someone said a strange man buried himself in my farm. Dazai was shocked and said, who knew you were so good at voice imitation? Kunikita got angrier since he was ignoring him. Then, Kunikita remembered he came to take Dazai quickly for an emergency, telling him someone broke into our agency with explosives and took a hostage locked in the office. They immediately went to the agency. Atsushi tried to speak, saying, I have nothing to do with this, but they silenced him and took him along. Meanwhile, a man was really inside the office holding a remote that would blow up the whole building if pressed. He had tied up one of the agency members and was threatening them so no one would approach, demanding angrily to see the agency president. Dazai and the others arrived and hid so the man with the remote wouldn't act. Dazai told them, let him see the president and it'll be fine. Kunikita angrily replied, he'll kill him if he sees him. We can't involve the president. Luckily, he on a business trip now. Then they looked at each other seriously, saying there's only one way. Atsushi thought they'd use their abilities, but suddenly found them playing rock, paper, scissors. Dazai won, so Kunikita went to talk to the killer. The killer told him, I know you and know you'll distract me and use that annoying ability of yours, threatening to blow the place up if he got closer, forcing him to stand still by the desk. Dazai said to Atsushi, the situation bad.
Looks like he researched the faces and powers of all agency members. If I show up, I'll make him angrier. What should we do?
Atsushi shivered and said, no way, I'll do what you're thinking. Dazai explained, he the only one not officially part of the agency. Don't worry, all I want from you is to distract him a bit and I'll handle the rest. Dazai gave him some newspapers and told him, act like you came to sell them. And that all? Atsushi stood before the killer, who yelled at him harshly, making him terrified. Atsushi nervously said, I'm just a newspaper seller and came here by accident, and I noticed you're doing something wrong. The killer got angrier, asking, who are you to tell me that? Atsushi replied, no matter how much you hate these people, you can't take hostages and set off bombs. I'm sure there's something worth living for, giving him a passionate lesson in optimism and trying to make him back down from his idea. Suddenly, he approached the killer quickly and angrily, said, put that bomb aside and let go. Look for a job together. The killer raised his hand to move the remote away from Atsushi. Suddenly, Kunio took out his notebook and wrote wire gun, then tore the page. Using his Doppo poet technique, the paper turned into a gun. He fired the wire at the killer's hand, making the remote fly. And in an instant, Kunio was in front of him, grabbing and pinning him to the ground. Dazai came out, provoking Kunio with words. Kunio got furious and hit him. Suddenly, the killer took advantage of the moment, grabbed the remote from Kunio, and pressed the button. A countdown began, 30 seconds till the bomb exploded. Kunio ran to the bomb, and the killer jumped on him to push him away. Atsushi quickly searched for something to cover the bomb to muffle the explosion. He looked beside him and saw the hostage, so he threw her quickly at Dazai and hugged the bomb lying on the floor, not realizing what he was doing. After the countdown ended, Kunio said, I knew you were stupid, but not this much. Dazai laughed, saying he got the talent to be a suicide addict like me. Then suddenly said to the killer, wasn't I right? Junichiro? Surprisingly, Junichiro asked Atsushi, are you okay? I'm sorry. Atsushi was shocked, realizing it had all been an act, and the girl he tied was his sister. Kunio told him if you want to blame someone, blame Dazai, or yourself too, for choosing the wrong person to help you find work. Dazai quickly defended himself, saying, I told you there'd be a test. Suddenly, the agency president entered, saying to Atsushi, since Dazai said you're qualified, I asked him to test your determination. Dazai continued, I nominated you to be hired here, but since you were classified as a threat to the department, there was disagreement. Then the president added, but Dazai asked me, suppose I brought you the most talented person in the world, would you hire him? I replied, power alone won't make you a member of the agency. Dazai replied, and that why I recommended him. Kunio asked the president, what your decision? He turned his back and said, I'll let Dazai decide. Dazai turned to Atsushi and said, you passed the test already. Welcome to the Armed Detective Agency. Atsushi nervously said, it's impossible for me to join such a violent and careless job. Dazai replied, and no sane person would cover a bomb with his body to protect others. Don't worry, you'll be fine. The next day, they were all at the agency cafe, and Junichiro apologized to Atsushi again for what he did and introduced himself. Then, Atsushi asked them what they worked as before joining the agency, which surprised them all, and Dazai told him, we always play a game, any newcomer we make, guess what the previous job of the others was before the agency. First thing Atsushi guessed right was that Junichiro and his sister Naomi had been students at school. After that, he guessed Kunio had been a government worker in charge of something. And Dazai replied, you're very close, he was a math teacher. Kunio got angry and said that was in the past and he didn't want to remember it. Then Dazai asked, and me? Atsushi strained his mind and tried but couldn't find anything. So Kunio told him, don't tire yourself. His previous job is one of the agency's 7 mysteries, and Junichiro added the first one. Who guesses it right will get a prize. Atsushi's eyes lit up when he learned the prize increases every day because no one knows the answer, and he asked how much the prize is now and was told 700,000 yen. Atsushi was shocked and tried to million guesses randomly, but none were correct. Kunio interrupted them and told Dazai, I feel like you just wander around, doing nothing in life. Dazai seriously replied, I won't lie about that at all. A call reached Junichiro, telling the others they're a client at the agency. So they all stood up and they met the client, who was an investigative customer. Junichiro spoke with her, asking what type of inquiry she wanted. Suddenly, they saw Dazai holding her hand, saying, how about coming with me for a double suicide? Kunio dragged him out and apologized to the client and followed him out to hit him as punishment. The client continued the investigation request, saying, people loiter in the back corridor of my company building. People saw them wearing torn clothes and speaking a foreign language. I think they're smugglers or something like that. Kunio returned after finishing with Dazai and told her the military police could handle this matter. She replied, yes, but we need evidence to file a complaint. Kunio deduced she wanted the investigation to obtain proof of their illegal actions. Kunio told Atsushi Goyu, it's simple stakeout work. Smugglers aren't harmful, they just smuggle Atsushi. Was shocked that Kunio decided to send Junichiro with him. He prepared Atsushi things, and before leaving, Kunio showed him a photo of a man and warned, I'll warn you once only, if you see this man, don't fight him. Atsushi looked and asked, who is he? Dazai replied, a member of the mafia. We call him that because we don't know anything about him. Kunio added this is a criminal organization, claiming the port is within their territory. They call themselves the Port Mafia. They are the most dangerous underworld group in this city. The man in the photo is one of them named Akutagawa, a very dangerous man, and the agency can't handle him. His ability is specialized for killing, and even the military police have no chance against him. At the same time, Akutagawa entered a police station, carrying a bag telling them, "I found this, and I'm returning it." As he approached the officers, they recognized him and drew their guns pointing at him. Akutagawa placed the bag before them and used his ability. Seconds later, he left the station, and someone passing by asked about something and was horrified to find all the officers dead and the wall covered in blood. The bag had been a bomb, and it destroyed the whole place. Meanwhile, Atsushi, Junichiro, and Naomi followed the client, whose name was Higochi, and she led them to a blocked corridor. Junichiro wondered and said, "Smugglers are a bunch of cowards. May they always have a way to escape, or a secret passage, but this path is completely blocked." She replied, "You're right, hot and cran." She opened her phone to call Akutagawa and informed him she had cornered them as requested. Akutagawa was on a rooftop saying, "5 minutes, and I'll be there." Hitachi drew 2 guns and fired at Junichiro, who was stunned as his sister stepped in front of him, taking the bullet instead. He dropped to his knees, holding her tightly, trembling, and unable to process what happened, while Atsushi was frozen with fear, unable to move. Higachi reloaded and put the gun to Junichiro's head, saying, "Her investigation shows you're a non-combatant member, so get your princess now." Junichiro became furious and used his light snow ability, turning the air around them into green snow. She saw murder in Junichiro's eyes and fired randomly, hoping to hit him. But Junichiro suddenly vanished from her sight and told her, "My ability lets me control the scene around me and you won't be able to see me." She fired randomly around, hoping to hit him, but he reappeared behind her and strangled her with both hands until the weapons fell from her. Suddenly, Akutagawa appeared behind him and stabbed him with his ability. Atsushi panicked as the only one left and remembered Kunikida's warning not to fight this man, no matter what. Akutagawa approached him and introduced himself, saying, "I'm one of the mafia dogs like this woman." Higachi stood up, saying, "Akutagawa, I can handle them alone." He hit her and angrily said, "I thought I told you capture the living tiger man, and instead I find you firing randomly. You're useless." Atsushi was puzzled, asking, "What do you mean, take the tiger?" Akutagawa replied, "You were my target long ago. Your dead colleagues on the floor are just victims of the choke." Atsushi was shocked that the blame was his fault. Akutagawa confirmed the idea, saying, Your fate. You will cause harm to everyone around you just by being alive." And Atsushi was affected by the words because of what happened at the orphanage. Suddenly, Akutagawa used his ability and struck his side on purpose. A black demon named Rashomon appeared above him, and Akutagawa said, "Atsushi, I intend to take you alive, but if you insist on resisting, I'll cut your leg next time." Atsushi trembled from fear, and Akutagawa's words affected him deeply. But Junichiro cut in, telling him, "Run quickly." Atsushi was surprised they were alive, got encouraged, and ran at Akutagawa, who unleashed Rashomon at him. Atsushi slid across the floor past it, grabbed Higachi's gun from the ground and fired at Akutagawa back, but to his shock, Rashomon appeared on his back and ate all the bullets. Akutagawa explained, "The black beast eats anything and everything." Atsushi was stunned, wondering how a person could be attacked like that. Then, Akutagawa said, "I'm a man who keeps his word," and unleashed Rashomon to sever Atsushi's leg. Atsushi screamed in agony and fell to the ground, bleeding profusely. He saw himself as small and weak, crying all the time, unloved. He decided to change all that completely. Suddenly, he transformed into the blue tiger, and his right leg regenerated. Akutagawa was excited because this was what he had been waiting for. He unleashed Rashomon again, but the tiger stood on it, resisting Akutagawa energy, and threw him into the wall. Higochi was furious for her boss and fired at the tiger, but no bullet penetrated its hide. The tiger lunged at her, but Akutagawa saved her at the last moment with Rashomon using a technique called ageto. He split the tiger in half, but suddenly the tiger vanished in Junichiro's illusion and reappeared behind Akutagawa, who used Rashomon again as the tiger charged at him angrily. Suddenly, Dazai appeared between them both and touched them with his technique, nullifying their abilities completely. Higachi wondered what brought Dazai here. He told her, "I was suspicious of you from the start, so I decided to eavesdrop on you." She was shocked that as soon as he approached and touched her, he placed a bug device in her jacket. Dazai ignored them and went to wake Atsushi so he wouldn't have to carry 3 people. Higachi aimed at him, saying, "You think you'll leave here easily." But Akutagawa laughed and told her, "Don't do anything you can't handle," and told Dazai, "We'll withdraw this time, but that tiger will be ours one day." Dazai asked, "Why do you want him?" Akutagawa replied, "Because there's a huge bounty for him on the black market, 7 billion yen. Dazai was surprised by the number, and Akutagawa told him, "We'll visit your agency soon." Dazai asked, "Is that a declaration of war? Try it if you have the guts." Higachi got angry, calling them a weak, small administration. "While we are the darkness itself in this city, and have relations with all politicians and investors, no one opposed us, and lived," she said mockingly. I know. Akutagawa told her, "Surely you know more than anyone. After all, you used to be a member of the Port Mafia." The next day, Atsushi woke up from a nightmare about what happened yesterday, and when he looked beside him, he saw Kunikida. So he nervously asked, "Where are Junichiro and Naomi?" Kunikida told him, "Calm down, they're both fine. Dr. Yasano is treating me now in the room next to us." Then he told him, "There's news you must know. There's a bounty on your head that reached 7 billion in the black market, and that's why the Port Mafia are after you." Kingshri got very nervous and asked, "What should I do?" Kunikita calmed him, saying, "There's no doubt the port mafia are extremely violent, but stay calm. Even the most skilled person can get killed if they lose composure." Kingshri understood his book was upside down and told him. Then Kunikita stood up and panicked completely in fear of the port mafia, making Atsushi realize he was only pretending to be calm. Meanwhile, one of the port mafia members walked among his men and reached a strong iron door, touched it, and used his destructive ability, so the door shattered. He entered where the workers were and said, "I heard some punks are selling port mafia goods in the black market, and their base is supposed to be here. We came to look for proof." He walked among them calmly, asking, "Do you mind if we search the goods?" Suddenly, one of the workers grabbed an iron rod and swung it at him. He raised his hand and touched the rod with his ability, making it stop and sending the worker flying until he hit a container. He looked at his hand and saw the rod bent and was shocked. The mafia member approached and put his hand on his shoulder, asking, "Haven't you seen an ability user before?" Then used his power, breaking every bone in the worker body. All the workers stood away in terror. The mafia member left, telling his men finish them. They started shooting and made a massacre. The next day, Atsushi passed by that crime scene by chance and heard that the one who did it was the Black Lizard of the port mafia. He became even more terrified of the mafia and feared they would attack the agency because of him. Meanwhile, at the port mafia headquarters, the phone rang. Higachi answered and found it was Atsushi. Realizing he had seen her card she left at the agency, she told him, "Your comrades saved you that day, but that won't happen again." He replied seriously, saying, "I'll resign from the agency and run away alone." "Catch me if you can," she asked, meaning, "You want us to back off from the war against the agency?" He hung up and Higachi stood up, calling for the Black Lizard squad. Atsushi then went to the agency to get his belongings, walking down the stairs sadly. On his way, he met Kunikita carrying many books, who said angrily, "This big mess is your fault, so come help me carry these books." Atsushi turned and said, "Don't worry, nothing worse than what happened will happen. The agency is safe now," then left the place and walked away. At the same time, the Black Lizard leader, named Ryuro, was in a corridor when Michizo, a squad commander in the Black Lizard unit, entered smiling widely. Asking where Jin, Ryuro replied, "Arrived before you." Suddenly, from the darkness, a masked ninja-like figure appeared holding a knife to his neck. Michizo got angry, asking, "Do you want to fight or what?" Ryuro silenced them and threatened to kill them if they didn't stop. He got a call from Higochi, asking what the mission you need the three of us for. She replied, "The Armed Detective Agency office." He asked the agency itself, not the tiger. She answered, "We failed last time because of the agency. We won't repeat the same mistake, so we'll eliminate the agency first." He asked if I kill everyone. She replied, "I don't mind," and the Black Lizard got excited. Meanwhile, Akutagawa stood before a cell speaking to a little girl, imprisoned inside, telling her the useless don't deserve to live at all. He released Rashomon, aiming it near her neck. Noticing she didn't flinch or show fear, he told her, "Your determination pleases me, but I want to give you a reason to live for." At the same time, the Black Lizard squad reached the agency door. Ryuro broke it with his ability, and they all entered, some armed with rifles. Kunikita asked, "Who are you?" Ryuro replied, "Sorry. Even though you're a detective agency, I forgot to make an appointment and also forgot to knock." Kunikita realized it was the Black Lizard of the port mafia. Ryuro ordered his squad to open fire. Meanwhile, Atsushi was walking alone, sadly remembering the orphanage words and feeling they were right. Suddenly, he heard gunfire from the direction of the agency, so he ran there quickly. And when he entered, he saw Kunikita flipping Ryuro to the ground. While the other agency members had easily defeated the rest, he couldn't comprehend what was happening. Kunikita was angry that the office was wrecked, and now they'd need lots of money to fix it. They threw the port mafia members out the window, and Atsushi heard Kunikita saying, "I hope they stop these weak attacks already." Atsushi realized he had exaggerated the situation and that this kind of thing happened all the time. He cried with joy because he had always wished to stay with them. Atsushi started cleaning the place with the others. After realizing the greatness and strength of the agency, then he noticed Rampo's childish behavior and that he wasn't helping them clean, even though he was one of the agency members. Suddenly, Rampo called Kunikita and told him, "I must go to my mission." Kunikita asked, "Going to solve the murder case?" He arrogantly replied, "The city police can't catch any criminal without my help. My absolute deduction is the best ability in the whole country anyway." Atsushi looked at him confused and was even more surprised by how everyone praised him. Kunikita told Atsushi, "Forget the cleaning for now and go with Rampo." Atsushi was shocked and said, "It's a huge responsibility to be the detective assistant." Rampo replied, "Assistant? I don't need help from anyone in the investigation to take it or pass through the rotating gate." He said to himself, I guess he can't do anything except use his skill. When they arrived, Rampo was surprised by the policeman there because he expected someone else. The officer replied, "I'm here instead of Yasui today because the case was transferred to our department. My name Minura," and he told Rampo, "We don't need your help." Rampo replied that foolish, all difficult cases in the world must be overseen by a skilled detective. Minura replied, "We don't need your help this time because the victim was my colleague." He opened to show them the body, and Detective Sugimoto, who was with Minura, said, "We found her this morning floating on the river surface." Minura continued, "She took 3 bullets in the chest, but we still don't know where or when she was killed, and we didn't find the bullets either." Rampo asked, "Any suspects?" He replied, "No, and as far as we know, as her co-workers, she wasn't even in a relationship." Rampo said with an annoying smile, "So you don't know." Minura replied angrily, "I won't let an amateur detective like you oversee this case." Suddenly, the officers found something caught in the net they threw in the river. They pulled it out quickly and found Dazai, who was trying to commit suicide again. When he saw the body, he was very upset for the girl who died and said, "Surely our exceptional detective will know who the killer is." Rampo replied, "Not until I take the case first. See what that man wants," pointing at Minura. He replied, "We don't need private detectives. All my colleagues are better than any detective like you." Rampo took it as a challenge and told Sugimoto, "Solve this case within 1 minute from now." Sugimoto was shocked because that was impossible. Rampo said, "I can solve it in less than a minute, so if you're as good as he says, you should solve it faster than me." Sugimoto began thinking quickly, saying the victim was investigating a port mafia case. "I think this murder style is theirs." Dazai replied, "No, the port mafia methods are very specific. First, they force the traitor to bite the edge of the sidewalk. Then they stomp his head to break his jaw. While he in pain, they shoot 3 bullets. The only similar thing here is that she took 3 shots." Munura guessed it was an attempt to cover up the crime, so the killer fired 2 extra shots to make it look like the mafia did it. Sugimoto became very upset for his colleague. Rampo patted his back, saying, "Your time is up, you're still light years away from my level." Then told Minura, "Your colleagues aren't as smart as you said." Minura got angry, saying, "You keep talking nonsense. You look like someone who just read too many detective novels that affected you. Cases are solved by solid investigation, patience, and analyzing the crime scene." Rampo mocked him, saying, "Great detectives don't investigate. My ability can deduce the killer in an instant, and I'll know where and when the crime happened too. I even know how to make the killer confess and where the evidence is." Minura replied, "Enough boasting. Show us. You have 1 minute." Rampo got excited, and Dazai told Atsushi, "Watch closely, because this ability is what keeps the agency running." Rampo took out his glasses and put them on, activating the absolute deduction ability. Suddenly he said, "I understand." Minura mocked him. Rampo raised his hands and pointed at Sugimoto, saying, "You're the killer." Sugimoto was shocked, as was Atsushi. Minura laughed mockingly, saying, "Sergeant Sugimoto here is my senior colleague at work." Rampo replied confidently, "He the killer?" Minura got angry, saying, "Impossible, the killer would be that close to the crime scene in the first place." Rampo replied, "On the contrary, because he the killer, he wants to stay close to the investigation. And I also have proof." He asked Sugimoto for his gun. Sugimoto panicked, saying, "You must be joking. Giving my weapon to a civilian is a serious crime." Rampo told him, "If I take the gun and see nothing, I'll admit I'm useless and just an amateur." Minura ordered Sergeant Sugimoto to show the weapon. Sugimoto looked down, not following the order. Rampo said, "Even in this city, it's not easy for an amateur to find extra ammunition, and it's much harder when the weapon is government issued." Minura got nervous, asking angrily, "Why aren't you obeying?" Rampo replied for him, he thinking nervously now what he'll say about the 3 bullets he fired. Sugimoto was startled. Minura began really suspecting him. Sugimoto pulled out the gun and suddenly aimed it at Rampo. Dazai pushed Atsushi toward Sugimoto, stopping him, and they arrested him. Sugimoto tried to deny what happened. Rampo said the crime took place yesterday morning at the old dockyard 140 meters from here. Minura asked, "How did you know?" Rampo replied, "If we go there, we'll find your and the victim footprints and also the bloodstains you couldn't wipe off." Sugimoto grew more scared and asked, "How do you know all that?" Minura interrupted, saying, "We'll hear the rest in my office." They took Sugimoto to the office, where he began confessing that he didn't want to do it, but she was investigating someone and suspected him of corruption. Unexpectedly, she really found evidence on an important member, but that member was clever and sent a spy inside the police to get rid of the evidence. Rampo told him, "You're that spy." He replied nervously, "I wanted to be a police officer. I was frustrated after failing the exam 3 times. Then, someone contacted me and asked if I was ready to do anything to become a cop." Minura got angry, saying, "So you killed Yamagia because you became one of his dogs?" Sugimoto shouted, "No, that's not what happened. I tried to warn her and told her you'll get yourself killed if you don't hand over the evidence, but she insisted. I raised my gun only to threaten her so I could take the evidence, because if I didn't, they'd send an assassin instead. But she kept insisting, so I put the gun to my own head, threatening to kill myself. She ran toward me and pointed the gun at her and accidentally fired." Rampo replied, "And then if you did nothing, you'd become an official killer and get fired. So we were afraid you contacted the member who brought you into this. He told you how to dispose of the evidence, as he ordered you fired 2 extra shots at her to make it look like the mafia did it, then put her in the river so she'd drift away." Minura asked, "Where's the evidence you took from Yamagia?" Sugimoto was silent. So Rampo approached him and said, "Want me to guess the last sentence she told you? Sorry, right?" Sugimoto cried heavily, saying, "You really know everything. The evidence is in my desk drawer." After the case ended, Minoru thanked Rampo for his help, acknowledged him, and promised to call if he needed help again. As they walked away, Atsushi was amazed by Rampo's power and talked to Dazai about it. Dazai told him, actually, it's not a talent or special ability like ours. Atsushi was shocked. Dazai continued, Rampo is a rare civilian without any special powers. The thing is, he believes he has a unique ability, and despite his childish look, he's 26 years old, everyone respects him because they know his deductions are always right without any powers. Atsushi then understood why everyone liked and respected Rampo. The next day, Kunikita went on a mission with Dazai and Atsushi and told them the mission was to solve the series of disappearances happening in the Yokohama area. But the problem was that their information came from an unknown source, and their goal now was to investigate the source first. They entered the agency informant room where Rokuzo worked. Kunikita asked him, did you find the source of the information? He replied, the blue guide. I found some data left on the server and photos of the kidnapped victims. The spy isn't a bad person. He told you where they're being held and everything. Kunikita was surprised by the name and told him, I want you to keep searching about the blue guide. After that, they left to take a car heading to the hospital mentioned by the anonymous source. When they arrived, they found it an abandoned hospital that looked very scary from inside. They continued through the hallways until Atsushi saw footprints. Suddenly, they heard a voice calling for help, so they quickly followed the sound. They went to save a girl who was drowning in a fish tank. She introduced herself, saying, I'm a university doctor, and my name is Nobuko Dazai. Asked her, did you see who kidnapped you? She apologized because she fainted at the station, and when she woke up, she was already inside the tank. She told them there might be other kidnapped people here. She heard their voices when she started drowning in the tank. They moved quickly and opened all the doors. Atsushi really found other kidnapped people and called out to them. They were shocked to see them locked inside a room, surrounded by reinforced glass, and gas was released inside to suffocate and kill them. Dazai stopped Kunikita from breaking the door so he wouldn't blow up the whole building. The next day, the newspapers claimed the agency was responsible for the deaths of those people because they were present at the scene. Kunikita concluded that the enemy goal from the start was to frame the agency. After some thinking, Kunikita realized who the kidnapper was. He took the others and called the agency driver, who was also one of the informants working with them for a while. After they reached near the port, the driver told Kunikita, when you said on the phone you knew who the kidnapper was, I got excited. Which way should we go to reach him? Suddenly, Kunikita said, no needle hotties. The kidnappings happened here and you're the kidnapper. The driver was shocked. Atsushi asked why would he do that. Dazai replied he must be selling their organs on the black market, and since they wouldn't sell for much abroad in Japanese yen, he probably decided to sell them on his own to get larger amounts. The driver nervously said, if I had used this card to kidnap people, the police would have easily found me. Kunikita replied, no one would think of a taxi because the victims disappeared without any trace. The next day, he told him when you make them lose consciousness, you imprison them and take their clothes to wear them. Then you go to the places they were supposed to visit and make sure the cameras catch you so the police wouldn't know the victim was dead. When they check the recordings and you chose people whose height, body shape, and glasses matched yours, Dazai added, and kidnapping Nobuko was easy because she had already fainted at the train station, so you didn't need much effort at that time. You pretended to help her and took her with you, the driver replied. All this is just assumptions, Kunikita pressured him. The driver said, let's make a deal. I'll turn myself into you, the police, but on one condition, that you protect me for 72 hours at your headquarters until the prosecution takes me. Kunikita asked, confused, what that story? He replied, I was provoked to do all this by a new organ trafficking organization, and they told me you'll make a lot of money and won't get caught. Kunikita angrily asked, who are they? He replied, I don't know. I meet them at the Central Port building. Dazai asked, and why do you need protection? The driver replied, because the last person I kidnapped was a member of the port mafia. Suddenly, gunfire hit the taxi. The driver got out terrified, trying to run. Kunikita told Atsushi chase the driver, because if we lose him, the truth will never appear, he wrote in his notebook. Light explosion. The page turned into a flash bomb, and he threw it at the mafia members, blinding them. Dazai and Atsushi moved toward the driver. Kunikita came out from behind the car door, shooting at their hands, making their weapons fly. Suddenly, Rashomon sliced the car in half. Kunikita dodged Akutagawa attacks with difficulty and fired a bullet straight at his head. But as usual, bullets didn't work against Akutagawa. Though Kunikita hadn't aimed at him and had actually hit a water pipe, spraying Akutagawa with water, Kunikita then summoned an electric shock device and threw it into the water, electrocuting Akutagawa, who screamed in pain. But he got out of the water afterwards fine. Hearing police sirens, Akutagawa said, we'll meet again, and left. After that, Kunikita and the others went to the place where the driver used to meet the smugglers. Dazai told them this place is where the Blue King blew himself up. In the Blue Flag incident, that person destroyed national facilities and many companies and finally blew himself up after the police surrounded him in this building. I've heard the term Blue Guide before and wondered what its relation was to the Blue King. Kunikita replied, I was the one who investigated him and reported his location to the police. But that day the army, public safety office and police were all working together, so command was chaotic. At that time, only 5 detectives reached the hideout in time, but the Blue King had learned the police moves and prepared the bomb. When the detective decided to raid the place and entered it, exploded, Dazai asked, and one of those 5 detectives was Rokuzo father, right? Kunikita sadly replied, he was a very good detective with a strong sense of justice, and I was the one who reported the Blue King location to the police, so I'm the reason for his death. Totes again looked at each stains that is to be it confuse at the Blue King fault for blowing himself up. Suddenly, Kunikita received a message finding it was a new mission for the agency, and the client was the Blue Guide, and the mission was to defuse a bomb before tomorrow. Kunikita said with full determination, this time, we won't let the bomb explode, no matter what happens. The next day, the agency held a meeting to present ideas, and after Kunikita read them the message and found out that someone had made a bomb in an unknown location and was asking them to defuse it, they understood that the Blue Guide was trying to put them in a difficult position to ruin the agency reputation. After that, Kunikita went out to call Rokuzo and asked him to find the Blue Guide location. I want you to trace the data of the equipment used to make the bomb. Then he went to the cafe where Dazai was to yell at him for not attending the morning meeting. Dazai told him, I know what's happening, and I know the Blue Guide goal is to destroy the agency. Nobuko was sitting with them and asked, are you sure it's fine for a stranger like me to hear all this? Dazai asked her opinion about the case since her field was psychology. She said, I feel the Blue Guide and the Blue King are actually the same person, and when he blew himself up in the building, he managed to escape somehow. Atsushi asked, even if the Blue King is still alive, why target the agency? Dazai said maybe because Kunikita was the one who reported his hideout. Kunikita replied, the Blue King death was confirmed by the military police after forensic analysis, and there's no doubt about it, Dazai said. In any case, you must be well prepared until you discover who he really is. At that moment, they finally received a message from Rampo, who had been on an investigation far away, and they couldn't reach him. Atsushi called and asked him about the bomb location. Rampo told them it was in a fishing equipment store. They quickly drove there, and Atsushi asked, but why a fishing equipment store? Dazai told him, open the map and look around it. He saw all the fuel and gas facilities nearby, and realized the goal was to make a small explosion that would ignite the huge containers and destroy the entire port. Dazai continued, but sneaking into a place like that would require bypassing very strong security systems. So the easier way was to put the bomb in a car and leave it near the fuel facilities. Meanwhile, the bomb disposal squad found the car with the bomb inside, but informed Dazai they couldn't move it because of the timing device, and that it was almost impossible to disable before sunset. Suddenly, Kunikita stopped the car across the road because he got a call at the same time. Rampo called Atsushi, and the agency president called Dazai. Kunikita started driving again, and said, Rokuzo told me someone ordered a transmitter and other equipment for an old Defense Forces facility. Atsushi said, Rampo told me the same thing. Dazai added, the president said the driver was found dead. They were shocked because he was supposed to be in a completely isolated area with protection. Dazai continued, he died after suddenly collapsing in pain, and the cause of death was unknown. They found 00 written on his hands. They reached the old Defense Forces facility, and suddenly, bombs came flying at them, which Kunikita barely dodged. At that moment, they saw 4 people shooting at them. Kunikita used Doppo Poet and made a flash bomb explode, telling Dazai and Atsushi go search for the transmitter and send the stop signal for the bomb. He came out from behind the car to attack, and suddenly found himself inside a circle. On the ground in front of him was a man saying, give me your number. The circle disappeared from the ground, and number 39 appeared on his hands. The enemy landed before him, and with a gesture made Kunikita weapon fly away. Kunikita was irritated by his ability. The enemy asked, what your number now? Kunikita looked and saw it was 21. The enemy said, you can't escape my ability. He moved his finger, controlling Kunikita, moving him left and right as he wanted, lifting him and slamming him to the ground, telling him, once your number reaches 0, you'll die in pain. Honestly, the detective agency is more of a threat to us than the mafia, so I must eliminate you first. He took out the bomb deactivation key in front of Kunikita and broke it so there was no hope of stopping it. Kunikita got angry and lunged at him, but the enemy controlled him and pushed him away. Dazai reached the transmitter, but found it worked with a key that he needed to get to stop the bomb. Suddenly, a huge man appeared guarding the device. Dazai tried to punch him, but he was weak in physical combat, so the big man choked him. Atsushi jumped on his head with a metal chair, but it had no effect. The big man kicked him away and threw Dazai into the wall. Kunikita noticed what was happening to Dazai above and saw the big man choking him, but couldn't do anything because the enemy controlling him. Dazai called out to him, and Kunikita understood he wanted to switch places. Kunikita summoned a wire gun and shot it at the window near Dazai, breaking it. Dazai jumped up, and Kunikita rose. The enemy used the number circle on Dazai, but Dazai nullified it with his ability. The enemy panicked, not understanding why no number appeared on him. Dazai calmly and confidently approached him, saying, "Unfortunately, it has no effect, and tell your giant partner to change jobs and become a porter." He punched the enemy at the same time. Kunakita punched the giant, throwing him into the wall, and metal objects fell on him. Atsushi asked Kunakita where the key. Kunakita replied, "The enemy broke it." Atsushi panicked since only 3 minutes were left. Kunakita drew the key's shape in his notebook and used Doppo Poet to create another one, saying to Atsushi, "My ability lets me make anything I've seen before." He put the key in the device and deactivated the bomb. The next day, Kunikita went to the cemetery and there met Nobuko. She told him she had an important appointment to attend and left. Then Kunikita got a call from Dazai telling him about a strange place to meet. When he arrived, Dazai showed him a flash drive and said, "This is a study of Yokohama we found in a computer in their hideout, and it said destroying the agency is the priority." Kunikita was surprised. They were ignoring the mafia responsible for the criminal world and focusing on the agency. Dazai told him someone was manipulating them with false information. "I sent a message to the person I suspect is behind all this. Told them I have proof. That person is on their way here now." Suddenly, Rokuzo entered, and Kunikita got very angry. But Dazai said, "I see you hacked my messages and knew what would happen, so you came." Rokuzo replied, "I want to know who's responsible for all this." Kunikita shouted at him, thinking he was the culprit, but suddenly Rokuzo pushed him aside and took the 2 bullets instead. Dazai held Rokuzo and aimed the gun at the other door from where the bullets came. Nobuko entered, and he said, "As I expected, you're the blue guide." She pointed her gun at him too, and said the blue guide was a good person, who lived by his principles. His intentions were pure when he entered the world of crime, and that's why he stained his hands with blood. I just wanted to fulfill his wish. Dazai replied, "Your beloved blue guide was a man seeking perfection who wanted to enforce justice on criminals the law itself could never punish." Kunikita yelled at her, "Lower your weapon." "What's the purpose of all this?" She said, "You're just like him and have the same principles." Dazai said, "Your plan was very clever without committing any crime yourself. You trapped the agency to blame it and destroyed the kidnapper and the criminal organization behind him, but you personally have no beliefs or principle." Nobuko lowered her weapon, saying, "I'm tired and want to be free from all this." She asked, "Will you shoot me even after I dropped my gun?" Dazai said, "You're right, I can't," and threw his gun to Rokuzo so he could kill her himself and avenge his father who died because of the blue guide. At night the next day, a girl was standing in the street completely silent, not responding to anyone. Suddenly she moved when she saw Dazai in front of her and said, "I found you." She opened her phone and her ability activated. Dazai immediately realized he was in big trouble. The next day at the agency, Atsushi was very worried about Dazai because he hadn't returned since yesterday, but the rest of the agency members were completely calm, assuming he was just trying to commit suicide somewhere as usual. Atsushi said, "But Dazai is being targeted by the port mafia. Maybe something happened." They told him, "No, Dazai senses danger quickly and doesn't die easily." Junichiro entered and said, "I'll go search for him." Atsushi was very happy that he had fully recovered after what happened with Akutagawa. But strangely, Kunikita asked him, "How many times did Dr. Yosano torture you?" Junichiro trembled, remembering, and said 4 times, then told Atsushi fearfully, "As long as you're here in the agency, never get injured." Rampo added, "The moment you find yourself in danger, run away and improve your danger sensing skill." Dr. Yosano entered and asked Atsushi, "Are you injured or something?" He said, "No, I'm fine," and looked uncomfortable. Then she said, "I need someone to go shopping with me, but seems they're only you." Atsushi looked around, shocked that everyone had run away, realizing what Rampo meant by improving the danger sensing skill. He went with Yosano and she made him carry everything she bought. Suddenly, the same girl who had kidnapped Dazai yesterday passed by them. Atsushi felt something strange about her and looked at her, then accidentally bumped into a man. He apologized, but the man didn't accept and stayed angry. Yosano stepped in and apologized too, but he slapped her hands and acted arrogantly. Yosano got furious and broke his arm. After that, she and Atsushi took the train back to the agency. Yosano held his leg to look at it since she had heard it was cut off when he fought Akutagawa. She noticed there wasn't even a scar or mark. Suddenly, the train microphone activated and they heard someone saying he would blow up the train. The first car exploded, killing 3 people. The voice continued, "We placed explosives in every car to blow up everyone on this train." Then he called out Itsushi's name, saying, "Either you surrender yourself, or I'll detonate all the bombs at once." Itsushi was scared and asked Yosano, "What should we do?" She replied, "Either you surrender yourself, or jump off the train now and escape, or we go stop him." Itsushi stood up, and she told him, "You go to the back cars, and I'll go to the front ones. Look for the bombs." They both moved, and Yosano thought to herself, blowing up an entire train full of people is suicide, even for the mafia. This plan is too bold. As soon as she opened the next car door, she found a lemon-shaped bomb that exploded on her. Yosano got up with difficulty, saying it's strange to find a wanted criminal like you here, Motoguro. Besides being a mafia member, you're famous for explosives and have killed 28 people before. On the other side, Atsushi moved feeling guilty that all this was because of him. The girl who kidnapped Dazai passed by him and he warned her the train will explode, you can't go toward the bombs. She took out her phone answering a call. Someone told her you must protect the bomb and kill anyone who interferes using your snow demon ability. Suddenly a demon appeared behind her holding a sword and attacked Atsushi. Atsushi ran toward her, but the snow demon cut his body all over with the sword, then struck him with a very strong blow, slicing his chest open. The girl told him, "My name is Kyuka, and I'm an orphan, like you. After the mafia took me, I killed 35 people in 6 months." Atsushi was shocked, and the person on the call confirmed, telling her, "Protect the bomb." Atsushi got up again, filled with determination, and rushed at her. He dodged the snow demon's strikes, but she was so fast he couldn't keep up. Meanwhile, Motogiro kept hitting Yusano, stepped on her and took out a small knife, stabbing her hand to pin her, then threw a huge number of bombs and walked away. Yusano painfully pulled the knife out of her hand but couldn't escape before all the bombs exploded beneath her. A bit later, Motogiro entered the car where he had exploded Yusano and found her corpse sitting on a seat. He approached, mocking her. But suddenly she stood up angrily and punched him with all her strength. He asked, "How are you still alive?" She replied confidently. "An explosion that small can't kill me." She punched him again, and he said, "Impossible. You were about to die." She told him, "It doesn't show, but I'm a doctor and have seen more deaths than you. My ability is called Won't Die and can heal any wound, but its conditions are harsh. It only heals critical injuries, so to heal moderate ones, I must first put my patient in critical condition." She drew her sword and slashed at him. On the other side, Atsushi was shocked that when the demon swung down at him, his hands turned into a tiger and blocked it. His perception and speed increased. He dodged all her strikes, struck the sword with his tiger hand, and broke it. He put his claws on Kyuka's neck and asked, "Where is the bomb?" She showed him it was strapped to her chest. Atsushi was shocked and asked, "Who are you really, and how are you scared knowing you'll explode?" "I don't feel any emotion from you, not even in your words. You're like a killing machine. If you feel anything, say it. Because an idiot like me can't understand alone." He shouted angrily, "Do you want to kill all these people?" Yasano interrupted, speaking through the train microphone, telling him, "Kyuka has a remote that can stop the bomb." Atsushi took the remote from her and pressed the button, but the shock was that it activated the bomb instead of stopping it. The person on the call told her, "Die with the passengers and make everyone fear the port mafia." Atsushi got furious and tried to remove the bomb from her. She told him there's no time and stood at the door crying, saying, "I don't want to kill anyone anymore." She jumped off the train and Atsushi's legs turned into a tiger as he leapt after her. He tore the bomb off her with his claws and it exploded far from them. He carried her to shore and fainted. The call disconnected after the other side heard the explosion, thinking it was over. The one who had been giving her orders was Akutagawa, because her ability only activated by commands coming from the phone. He said to himself, "A pawn stays a pawn no matter how strong." Then looked at the chained Dazai and asked, "And you, are you a pawn or a king?" On the other side, Atsushi took Kyuka Yusano so she could treat her and sat outside thinking about what she had said. Kunikida entered and told him, "You brought trouble with you again. That girl is a professional killer who deceives people with her innocent look because she a child then finishes them off." Atsushi replied sadly, "But the one who should be blamed is the person exploiting her ability." Kunikida said it not necessary that abilities bring happiness to their owners, and you're the one who knows that best. Yasano interrupted them, saying she woke up. They entered to question her, and Atsushi tried to talk to her kindly, but she didn't respond. Kunikida asked angrily, "Who is your boss?" She replied, "I want to eat tofu, and I'll answer your questions when I'm done." Atsushi smiled and said, "I'll get it for you." They took her to the nearest tofu restaurant, and Kyuka ate happily, and every time she finished a plate, she ordered another. Atsushi cried because of the money he had to pay for her. After she finished, she told them, "The mafia took me after my parents died, and I became an orphan. They probably did it because they needed my ability, and as for the snow demon, she only accepts orders coming from the phone." Kunikida put her phone in front of her and said, "I removed the battery from it." Atsushi asked, "Why didn't you just throw the phone away so no one could control you?" She replied, "Because if I resisted, they would kill me, and even if I left the mafia, there's nowhere else for me to go." Kunikida asked, who was the one controlling the snow demon through the phone. She told him a man named Akutagawa. Both were shocked, and Kunikida decided to report it to the agency. He ordered Atsushi to hand Kyuka over to the military police. Atsushi followed him outside, asking, "If I do that, what will happen?" Kunikida replied, "After she killed 35 people, she'll definitely be sentenced to death. Even if she goes back to the mafia, they'll see her as a traitor and kill her." Atsushi hesitated, and Kunikida asked angrily, "What? You plan to save her? Do you have enough determination to take responsibility for her?" He told him, "I'm not stopping you from feeling sympathy for someone in trouble, but this girl problem is far bigger than anyone else." Atsushi was confused, because that meant Dazai was wrong for saving him. Meanwhile, Dazai was singing when Akutagawa entered and choked him with Rashomon. Dazai nullified his ability. Akutagawa said, "I assume you know what happens to people chained here." Dazai asked, "Do you remember when you were a beginner?" Akutagawa replied, "You made a lot of mistakes, abandoned your mission suddenly and disappeared, then came back as an enemy to the port mafia. Hard for me to believe you were once part of the mafia." Dazai mocked and said, "Hard for you to believe I was your boss too?" Akutagawa spoke angrily while Dazai bled. Akutagawa said, "You're not invincible. As long as I don't use my ability, I can hurt you normally and even kill you." Dazai mocked, saying, "I see, you got promoted, but I'll tell you something. Your training was a challenge because you were slow to understand and always disobeyed orders. Besides, your ability is very weak." Akutagawa replied, "Your arrogance will last only 2 more days. We'll destroy the agency and take the tiger. After that, we'll execute you. Wait to hear the news of your whole team death." Dazai provoked him, saying, "I doubt you can do it. My new trainees are better than you." Akutagawa got angry and punched him. At the same time, Sushi was with Kyuka in the city after she had made him broke. He couldn't tell her he was supposed to take her to the police. He told her, "We'll go wherever you want." They walked around the city together and Kyuka showed him all the buildings and places. Since she was forced to memorize the map as part of the mafia, Kyuka saw a sweets truck and made Atsushi buy her some. Then they went to an amusement park and Atsushi won her the doll she wanted. On their way, she told him, "There's one more place I want to visit." Suddenly, Atsushi saw her pointing at the police station. She told him, "I really enjoyed today." Atsushi asked fearfully, "But if they arrest you?" She interrupted, saying, "I know I'll be sentenced to death for the people I killed. Someone like me doesn't deserve to stay alive at all. And if I go back to the mafia, they'll kill me too." Suddenly, Akutagawa pierced Atsushi's chest with Rashomon, saying, "Impossible, that we'd kill you. You completed your mission perfectly. I planted a listening device in your clothes and knew where you were and what you were doing." Mafia cars arrived and opened fire on the police. He threw Atsushi into a truck, grabbed Kyuka by her hair, and said, "We're going home." At the same time, the agency learned that Atsushi had been kidnapped. Kunikida said, "We don't have time now to search for him. We're all busy with a mission." Junichiro said, "We must act quickly and rescue him." Rampo replied, surprised, "And why rescue him? He was kidnapped because of the tiger power, and they want the bounty on him, so it's personal and his problem. We're not responsible since he hasn't officially joined us." Kunikida said, "Rampo is right. It's not our place to act." Naomi didn't like what she heard and went to bring the president. He said, angrily, "Our new member was kidnapped. Move quickly and find him. I order you to drop whatever mission you're on until he returns to us." He ordered Kunikida to bring Atsushi back within 3 hours. Meanwhile, a mafia member named Chuya entered Dazai's cell. Dazai was surprised and said, "Disgusting, you haven't changed at all." Dazai started mocking his clothes. Chuya grabbed him, saying, "You might fool Akutagawa easily, since he a rookie, but I was your partner." He asked, "What your plan?" Dazai replied, "As you can see, get captured and wait for execution." Chuya said, "Impossible for anyone to capture the Dazai I know. If it were that easy, I would have killed you long ago." Dazai asked, "Why are you here?" Chuya replied, "To annoy you. You used to play with me however you wanted, back then." Suddenly, Chuya turned and cut Dazai chains, saying, "Now I came to pay you back double for what you did." Dazai removed the cuffs from his hands, and Chuya said, "I was right. You can escape whenever you want," getting excited for the fight. At the same time, Kunikida started carrying out the president orders as fast as he could until he got an image of the truck Akutagawa threw Atsushi into. From it, he learned the transport company info and realized if they questioned them, they'd find Atsushi's location. Junichiro was already at the company observing the situation. He noticed something strange there, rushed inside, and was shocked to see the mafia had killed everyone. The president told Rampo, "If you bring back our rookie safely, I'll reward you." Rampo asked, "What will you do? Give me money? Promote me?" "I'm not interested." The president replied, "I'll praise you." Rampo got excited and used his ability, telling them Atsushi is on a ship at sea. The president handed Kunikida the key to his boat and told him chase the ship. On the other side, Chuya attacked Dazi. Dazi grabbed his hand and punched him in the stomach, but the hit was weak and Chuya returned it with a much stronger one. Chuya told him, "Your martial arts skill level is below average for the mafia. The ability to nullify others' powers is annoying, but I don't need my ability to finish you." Dazai stood up and Chuya noticed he blocked his punch at the last moment, meaning he was predicting his attacks. Chuya lunged at him again, punching his face, then his stomach, grabbed his neck to choke him and placed a knife on his throat, asking, "Why did you let them capture you? What were you waiting for here?" Dazai replied, "The first reason is the Tiger Man. You'll kill and take." "I want to know who put the 7 billion bounty on his head," Chuya asked, surprised. "You want that information so badly? You'd risk your life for it?" Dazai laughed and said, "Let me tell you something, Tomorrow. They'll hold the meeting to decide the top 5 members." Chuya was shocked, saying that meeting is very important and happens once every few years. "They would have told me if it was happening." Dazai replied, "The reason it's happening is the message I sent to the organization upper management, and that why you won't kill me. You'll even tell me the information I came for, and if you don't, the message I sent says if Dazai dies, all your secrets will be revealed." Chuya was even more shocked, because if the prosecutor learned those secrets, the entire mafia would be executed. That was more than enough of a threat. To force the meeting, he stabbed his knife beside Dazai's head and walked away furious. Dazai said, "By the way, you're the one who broke my chains, so if I escape, they'll think you helped me, and you'll be considered a traitor. But if you do what I say, I'll make it look like someone from the agency came to free me." Chuya replied, "The information you want is in the communication records storage room, because Akutagawa is the one in charge of the Tiger Man case." Before leaving, Chuya told him, "Don't think this is the end. At the same time Kyuka opened the container door where Atsushi was, he thought she came to rescue him, but suddenly Akutagawa pulled him outside with Rashomon, put his foot next to his face and said, "I struck you with the intent to kill, but it seems your tiger ability is still active, even if incomplete." Atsushi asked, "Where am I?" He replied, "You're on an arms smuggling ship reserved just for you." Akutagawa stepped on his shoulder. Suddenly, Kyuka grabbed a gun and aimed it at Akutagawa. He sliced the gun in half and choked her, saying, "You think you can live a normal life outside the port mafia? Keep killing Kyuka. Humans are worthless and don't deserve to breathe," she replied. "You're right, but I'm happy about the day I spent with him." Atsushi was surprised, then heard Kunikita's voice from the boat next to the ship. Kyuka told Atsushi, "Run quickly. Either way, this ship won't make it." Akutagawa looked surprised. Meaning what? Kyuka pulled out a remote and pressed the button. Part of the ship exploded. Akutagawa was shocked that she had planted explosives in the weapon storage. He tightened his grip on her neck, asking, "Is that guy worth risking your life to save?" Atsushi reached the edge of the ship, but hesitated whether to jump and escape with Kunikita or go back and save Kyuka. Kunikita shouted at him, saying, "Leave that girl, not all the innocent live. I failed many times too, that the life we live, and this is our job. We're not heroes, I wish we were, but that not real." Atsushi replied with tears in his eyes, "That not true, because Dazai and the agency didn't abandon me." He left and ran to Akutagawa, catching Kyuka. Before he killed her, his hand transformed into a tiger and he leapt at him quickly. Akutagawa used Rashomon and Atsushi dodged fast. He broke off a metal piece from the ship and threw it at him. Akutagawa cut it. In an instant, Atsushi was upon him with his fist, but Akutagawa formed an energy shield and blocked it. Rashomon grabbed Atsushi and pushed him away. One of Rashomon's ends turned into a sharp sword. Atsushi escaped quickly, transforming his leg into a tiger, and lunged even faster, trying to punch him repeatedly, but couldn't break through Akutagawa barrier. After a certain time, the barrier disappeared, and Akutagawa had to dodge himself. Atsushi concluded he needed time to activate the barrier again. He punched quickly, but Akutagawa used Rashomon to lift himself, then descended on Atsushi with its extensions. Atsushi kept running to avoid them, searching for a chance to get closer, but suddenly one of Rashomon's ends hit him and a gas pipe broke, exploding on Atsushi. Suddenly, Atsushi emerged from the smoke behind him, landing a powerful punch that slammed Akutagawa to the ground. Akutagawa remembered when Dazai trained him, telling him, "You're too slow, your enemy won't wait for you to stand up." Akutagawa tried again, and Dazai kicked him in the stomach, making him bleed, telling him that level isn't enough to survive in the port mafia, or do you want to go back to being a stray dog again? Atsushi turned his back, thinking to take Kyuka to Kunikita, but suddenly, Akutagawa pierced Atsushi's heart with Rashomon, angrily saying, "Why you?" He transformed Rashomon into a fist and punched him into the container, saying, "You just learned your ability recently. It's full of flaws and you use it without planning." Yet wait, Atsushi noticed his hatred increasing without reason. The cause was Dazai's words. When he said, "My new trainees are better than you," Akutagawa grew more furious, screaming, "I won't let him say that again." He grabbed Atsushi with Rashomon grip, turning it into spikes that pierced Atsushi's body. Even after all that, Atsushi stood again, shocking Akutagawa. Atsushi asked, "If you're this strong, why did you use Koa?" He replied, "The snow demon is a lethal ability there. No meaning to its existence unless it kills someone. I just gave it value." Atsushi got angry, saying, "You have no right to decide who deserves to live or not." Akutagawa pierced Atsushi's heart with Rashomon, yet Atsushi grabbed him, pulling himself up and jumped to punch him. Akutagawa tried to push him away with another Rashomon end, but Atsushi didn't give up. Akutagawa jumped high, releasing needles from Rashomon from beneath the floor, piercing Atsushi. Even so, Atsushi resisted and leapt at him. Akutagawa made Rashomon bite him and let him fall, but was shocked when Atsushi grew a tail and grabbed him with it. Atsushi punched quickly. Akutagawa tried to block with the barrier, but Atsushi's strength shattered it. Akutagawa remembered Dazai's words as Atsushi's fist reached his face, knocking him into the water. Atsushi landed unconscious on the ship deck. Kyuka carried him and jumped onto Kunikita's boat. Kunikita looked at Atsushi, thinking, "You're really stupid," then smiled, saying, "Well done." On the other side, Dazai reached the data of the person who placed the 7 billion bounty on Atsushi's head and was shocked it was Francis, the leader of the guild. The next day, Atsushi stood at the agency door thinking about what would happen to Kyuka afterward. He was very afraid the agency might hand her over and she'd be sentenced to death. But he was surprised as soon as he entered that everyone liked her and were impressed by her. He thought Rampo would be the only one to object, but suddenly saw him coming in with a bag of sweets he had bought for Kyuka. Atsushi asked Junichiro who allowed her to join the agency. The president entered saying, "I did," and explained that thanks to the mafia attempts to erase Kyuka's identity, the police still hadn't found her, but it only a matter of time before she wanted. Kyuka approached him nervously, saying, "Please let me stay here, I'll do anything." Kunikita replied, "I'm against the idea, not because you were part of the mafia or because there's no work for you, but don't do this because the world we live in isn't easy." Akusi continued his words, and if you do this the mafia will find you. You should run somewhere far away. Kyuka, said Akutagawa, told me I can't do anything but kill people, and I want to prove him wrong. Atsushi bowed before the president and begged him to let her stay. Kyuka said please, repeating it many times until the president couldn't resist and agreed. At the same time, Akutagawa was in a coma at the mafia hideout. The boss told Higuchi that his lower jaw was fractured, his muscles torn, and he had first-degree burns all over his body, meaning he might never wake up again. All because of his failure. Higuchi apologized and the boss said you did what you could. Yes, you failed to attack the agency, capture the tiger, and sank the transport ship, but what matters is that you worked hard and did your part. Then he said, by the way, the transport company Akutagawa killed everyone in has come back. I think they're planning revenge on him. Higuchi was surprised and he continued. The mafia is a business that deals in violence. It allowed to destroy anything and kill anyone, meaning it a big responsibility, she replied, but Akutagawa did everything he could and handled his duty. He said, I know Akutagawa is capable, but I'm talking about you? Have you ever asked yourself if you're fit for this job? Higuchi went to the bathroom to wash her face. Suddenly, Jin came from behind and put a knife to her neck. Ryuro said,
Enough training, Michizu.
Told her, sorry, he always does infiltration and assassination missions. It got strange for him to kill one of us. On his superior's orders, Higuchi asked, you mean the boss would order him to assassinate me? Ryuro replied, not now, but who knows what could happen tomorrow? She asked angrily, you came here to mock me? He said, if I were you, I'd think about my current position before an assassin comes to my house. You and Akutagawa are key forces working directly under the boss, and you have the right to command us, meaning you're our leader. But what makes us follow your orders isn't authority, it's our respect for Akutagawa's strength. He asked her what could make us follow your orders now, while Akutagawa is in a coma. Later, Higuchi went to see Akutagawa, but remembered how he always told her, I don't need your help or anyone. She left and went home, remembering the boss question about being fit for the job, crying as she said, of course I'm not. At the same time, a fully armed masked squad stormed the mafia hideout and cut Akutagawa oxygen tube. On the other side, Higuchi was sleeping at home and got a call. She was shocked to hear what happened, ran quickly to the hideout packing weapons in a bag. Ryuro and Michizo told her, don't go. The kidnappers are foreign mercenaries sent by the transport company. You can't deal with them. The boss will issue retrieval orders anyway. She ignored them and left alone. Michizu grabbed her hand and she screamed, telling him the boss won't issue any orders. If we retaliate as an organization, it'll escalate and turn into a war between groups. The boss will avoid that and won't order anything. Michizu, do you think you can do anything alone? She replied sadly, nothing. But I can't just stand still and not even try. She ran quickly to the place where they had taken Akutagawa, thinking about how she had never truly belonged in the mafia and knew the subordinates never respected her from the start. Yet she never left because leaving wasn't easy. Knowing all their secrets, they'd definitely kill her. When she arrived trembling, she threw a grenade inside, then stormed in with a rifle, shooting everyone in sight. She was hit in the leg by a bullet, but gathered her courage for Akutagawa and attacked again fast. They shot the weapon out of her hands, and another bullet hit her shoulder. One soldier approached to finish her off, but before he fired, he was shot himself. Higuchi looked to see who fired, and saw the entire Black Lizard squad had come. They opened fire, killing all the soldiers. She asked them, why did you come? Ryuro replied, because you're our leader. As long as you're in danger, we must act. Higuchi limped into the room where Akutagawa was and called out anxiously. Akutagawa woke up, grabbing her hand, apologizing while turning his face away. Higuchi cried with joy. The next day, Kunikida assigned Atsushi to take care of Kuka, always, since he was the one who saved her, and brought her to the agency. Officer Minura entered and told Ranpo, we have a case. He reported the problem and left right away. Kenji said, I think the city police are very busy. Kunikida asked, and in your village, is the police free? Or what Kenji said, in the village, everyone knows each other. Usually the police fix wells or rescue cats. Kunikida asked, surprised, what if someone commits a crime? He replied, they tie him up and throw him off the cliff. He told Atsushi he lived in a village until 2 months ago where there were no phones or electricity at all. When the president came and took him to the city, he discovered many things and enjoyed his time. Junichiro interrupted, asking Kunikida, what will we do about Officer Mira's request? Kunikida reviewed the report and found that a car had exploded suddenly, without reason. He sent Atsushi to investigate the matter. When they arrived, Atsushi was surprised how sociable and popular Kenji was. He even met a huge man and got very confidential info from him about the car explosion, which was that a group was buying a certain type of fertilizer to make nitrogen bombs. Kenji decided to take Atsushi and go to the gang headquarters personally and ask them directly. Atsushi was shocked at first, then realized Kenji knew what he was doing and was confident. Meanwhile, Kunikida returned to the agency and found Junichiro sitting. He asked, surprised, you didn't go with Atsushi? Junichiro replied, Kenji went with him instead. Kunikida was shocked, saying, I know he's capable, but his methods of dealing with gangs don't work. Indeed, Kenji was standing before the gang leader, asking innocently, "Were you the ones who made the bomb that blew up the car?" The leader was confused, asking, "Are you police?" Kenji replied honestly, "No, we're from the Armed Detective Agency." His sincerity and innocence made the leader nervous, asking, "What are you planning?" Kenji smiled, saying, "I hope you'll tell me if you were behind it." The whole gang laughed, saying, "No, we don't know anything." Kenji apologized for the trouble and left simply. Atsushi was shocked, saying it was obvious they were lying. Kenji replied innocently, but they said they didn't know anything about it. And since I was honest with them, surely they wouldn't lie to me. Atsushi admired his words, feeling he might be right, and they walked away together. But the gang felt uneasy and followed them from afar. Suddenly, while they were walking, the gang surrounded them, thinking they had really uncovered the truth. Since they hadn't interrogated them, it meant they must have found evidence already. Kenji replied, "I'm glad you came to tell us the truth." They were shocked again, realizing he really believed they hadn't done anything. Suddenly, one of the gang hit him on the head with an iron pipe. Enji fell to the ground, and Atsushi panicked, being surrounded by the whole gang alone. But the surprise was that Kenji stood up, as if he hadn't been hit at all, calmly walked to the gang car, lifted it with one hand, and threw it at them. They all ran away, terrified. Kenji threw cars at them, breaking poles to hit them with a gentle smile on his face. The next day, Atsushi woke up and found Kyuka in the same room with him making him breakfast. He was shocked, and when he went to the agency, he asked why no one told him she'd be living with him. Dazai came close and told him she'd be in danger. At any moment, the mafia could appear and try to take her. Atsushi promised he'd protect her. Then Dazai pulled out a flash drive, saying he had found who placed the bounty on Atsushi's head. He told them it was the leader of the guild, an organization from North America filled with ability users. Kunikida was surprised, saying, "But that guild is just a legend." It said its members hold high positions in finance, politics, and the military, a secret society that can use its unlimited wealth and powers to execute impossible plans. Why would a group like that want Atsushi? Suddenly, a helicopter landed in the middle of the street. Dazai said, "Looks like the guild beat us," and came. The leader Francis sat with President Yukichi. Francis talked a lot of nonsense. Yukichi asked, "Why did you come all this way from your foreign country?" Francis introduced himself, though Yukichi knew him well. Francis said, "I own 3 groups of companies: hotels, an airline, and a railway company." Yukichi interrupted, saying, "I have information that you incited the port mafia with a bounty to attack us. Is that true?" Francis replied, "Yes, and it was my mistake. I honestly didn't know the largest criminal organization in your country was this weak. As compensation, I came to offer you a big, profitable deal." Francis opened a suitcase full of dollars, saying, "I want to buy the agency." "Don't misunderstand me, I can buy every building in this area, including the agency. And I'm not interested in the agency itself or your employees. I want the ability user work permit you possess." Yukichi refused without hesitation. Francis thought the amount wasn't enough and added his custom-made gold watch with diamonds. Yukichi replied, "Just as life can't be bought with money, you'll never get that permit with all your wealth, because that permit is the foundation of the agency and the hope of the Special Operations Division, and I must protect it because Natsumi worked hard to obtain it." Francis asked, "Surprised you mean there are things money can't buy? That is slogan of the poor, and your objection will mean nothing once all your employees disappear and the agency shuts down." Yukichi said, "I'll take your advice into consideration, but I'll ask you to leave now." Francis stood, saying, "I'll leave you a message in tomorrow's newspaper. Read it carefully." Kenji took the elevator with him to escort them to the door, but suddenly Kenji disappeared before they reached the ground floor. The next day, everyone was shocked by the news that an entire 7-story building had vanished without a trace. And that building had been a fake company belonging to the port mafia. They understood the message meant Francis could erase the agency in one night. Kunikida ordered Junichiro and Atsushi to search for Kenji, and if they met the enemy, not to fight, but to escape quickly. Atsushi and Junichiro set out, and as usual, Naomi went with her brother, refusing to leave him. Suddenly, while walking, Naomi completely vanished without a trace. Junichiro panicked and started searching for her, getting separated from Atsushi. He caught sight of the red-haired girl who had come with Francis, ran to her angrily, shouting, "Give Naomi back." She said, "Let play," and suddenly transported him to another dimension like an amusement park, surrounded by the people who had been walking near them. The red-haired girl said, "Welcome to Anne's room." Junichiro asked angrily, "Where is Naomi?" She pointed to a strange, locked black door, smiling, saying, "Here." Junichiro ran quickly and looked through the window beside the door. He saw another dimension within this one, but dark. He tried to open the door, but couldn't. The guild member told him that door won't open without a key. She pointed to a white door on the other side, saying that one can open. Atsushi looked through its window, seeing the normal city, but everyone frozen as if time had stopped. The guild member said, "My name is Lucy, and this dimension was created by my ability, but don't worry, you can leave through the white door anytime you want. But if you want to save your friends, you'll have to play a little with Anne." She summoned her huge, terrifying doll. Everyone panicked, running to the white door. Lucy said, "Once you go through that door, you'll forget everything that happened." In the end, only Atsushi, Junichiro, and a strange man remained. Atsushi warned him the place was very dangerous and he should leave. The man replied fearfully, "I'm looking for a little girl," and showed them her picture, asking, "Have you seen her?" Atsushi answered, "Unfortunately not." The man said hopelessly, "Her name Elise, and since we got separated, I've been going crazy. I think she's behind that black door, so if I run away and forget, I'll regret it for life." Atsushi respected his decision. Lucy said the rules are simple. You'll play tag with Anne, and if she touches you, you lose. A key to the black door appeared beside them. She added, if you manage to open the door before she touches you, you win and get your friends back. Atsushi grabbed the key. Lucy counted to 3. In an instant, Anne grabbed Junichiro, and black hands reached from the door, pulling him inside. Anne lunged at Atsushi quickly. He turned his leg into a tiger and jumped. She flew after him. He dodged and ran fast. Lucy said, your ability is wonderful. Sure you were born with high value. I heard you're an orphan like me. The orphanage was so cold. But because of my ability, everyone thought I was insane, and I heard the agency did the impossible to recruit you. It must be because of your power. Atsushi tried to say no, but she didn't let him finish, saying the guild took me too because they saw my strength. But there's no room for mistakes in the guild. If I fail a mission, they'll throw me away. She became furious, making Anne attack him. Atsushi ran, throwing anything he could at Anne, sprinting fast toward the door and trying to insert the key. But suddenly, the key stretched and cut his face. He realized the game was a trap from the start and there was no chance to win. Anne chased him as he ran in fear, bumping into everything from panic, finally reaching the white door, thinking to escape. But the strange man grabbed him, saying, don't abandon your friends, who struggled desperately to save you. But remember, once you leave here, you won't ask for help, and you'll forget everything, he advised. Instead of running away, attack her. Atsushi regained his resolve and stood again, but suddenly Anne appeared beneath him and jumped. Another copy of Anne caught him. Black hands emerged from the black door, pulling him. Lucy thanked the strange man for keeping Atsushi from escaping, saying, I can let you go now, or maybe I'll see your face when Anne chases you. Suddenly, he gave her a terrifying look, asking, want to try? Lucy trembled, unable to move, feeling pure hatred coming from him. She was shocked that Anne also couldn't move or approach him. Then he said, you already lost. Look at the door behind you. She was stunned, seeing it still open. The illusion created by Junichiro had made it look closed. Atsushi was clinging to the door edges, resisting the hands pulling him. She was shocked he could resist with just his hands and feet. He said, you underestimated me. I'm not strong or famous like you think. I lived a miserable life, so I understand your jealousy and hatred toward people. I don't want you to fail this mission or lose the place you feel you belong to, but since I'm weak and inexperienced, I can't think any other way. Lucy stood staring at him in disbelief. Suddenly, Junichiro illusion disappeared, revealing a yellow rope tied around Lucy's waist, with the other end in Atsushi's hand. He pulled her toward the door too, saying, stop your ability and release them, or I'll drag you inside and the door won't open without the key. Lucy panicked because he was right, and she wouldn't be able to get out. She refused. Out of fear of the guild, Atsushi let go, and they both fell inside. Atsushi opened his eyes, finding himself back in the city. Lucy had canceled her ability. He ran to her to check if she was okay. She was crying, looking at him angrily before running away. Then he heard the strange man finding the girl he'd been searching for and learned his name was Rintaro. He rejoiced that he'd found her. Then Kyuka appeared, saying she was worried and came for him. Atsushi thanked Rintaro for his advice, asking, are you a doctor? Rintaro replied, I was. Now I'm just an ordinary man before leaving. He gave Atsushi advice that in any war there's always a logical solution other than running away, no matter how hard things seem. After Rintaro left, Atsushi saw Kyuka drop to her knees terrified. Rintaro entered an alley until he reached the mafia members. All of them knelt before him because he was their boss.